Good afternoon, everyone. Very warm welcome to the session on access to finance for migrant entrepreneurs, as we call it, unlocking finance for migrant entrepreneurs. My name is Olga Sherbina. I'm joining from Warsaw, Poland. I'm a staff at the International Finance Corporation, part of the World Bank Group, and I'm leading advisory services of IFC with Financial Institutions Group in Poland and in broader region. So very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you very much for joining the session. It's my honor and my pleasure to moderate the session today. On behalf of the organizers of the Social Finance Vibe edition 2024, I would like to thank you for joining, and I would like to especially say thanks to Anna and Nida for agreeing to be speakers for this very important session. And I'm sure this session is quite critical. It's a very important conversation on supporting access to finance for entrepreneurial migrants and refugees, a topic which is very burning. We start with housekeeping. So just a kind reminder that the meeting is being recorded. It's for the benefit of everyone. You can share the links with friends and family, with your colleagues. You can reuse the session if you need to go back to some numbers or some studies. And it will also be placed on social media and YouTube channel. If you need to speak, please let us know. We will unmute you so you can ask your question by voice if you want to. Also, please take notes of your question, and there is a chat, and we will be monitoring the chat during the sessions and during the presentations. Don't hesitate to share your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, your suggestions, your questions. We'll be happy to get back to them. So by means of introduction, I would like to start with very sad statistics, I would say. So I checked the very recent numbers on numbers of migrants and refugees. And so the most recent number I have right now is 184 million people are migrants, which is 2.5% of the world population. And in that number, 118 million are forcibly displaced people who fled their countries because of various reasons, due to wars, due to climate changes, religious tensions, and so on. So the global refugee population increased by 7% only last year, and right now reaches 43 million. If you compare this number to the 10 years ago, the number tripled. And with the number of forced displaced contacts that we are seeing around, we see that this number is not going to reduce. It's likely to continue increasing. So this is the problem, which is not only humanitarian, but also developmental. So huge problem. As we can see, a lot of these people, they fled their countries with skill, with ambition, with a desire to rebuild their lives in host countries. And so they look to establish the stable, dignified livelihoods in their host countries. And they want to, all of us and all of them want to move from purely humanitarian support to actually empowerment, to self-sustaining economic development, to economic resilience of these people. So in this particular conversation, I think we will focus most on Europe. The numbers for Europe also, it's 24 million non-EU residents who reside in the EU countries. And that makes about 5% of total population of the EU. We see that many countries are welcoming and opening doors for the migrants and refugees from various countries, but nevertheless, migrants face very specific challenges and very specific issues, and they stem from access to labor market, access to education, access to healthcare system, to access to finance, both as individuals but also as entrepreneurs. Some of the statistics that I will give you is actually quite encouraging. If you look at Poland, the number of micro and small enterprises opened by Ukrainian refugees over the last 2.5 years only reached 60,000 people. It's a huge number. It's a very impressive number, in my opinion. But at the same time, I see that the issues the issues with access to finance for these entrepreneurs persist, and they are very difficult. IFC recently had a number of focus groups with Ukrainian refugees in Poland who are entrepreneurs. And we asked them specifically, what are the challenges that you are facing as entrepreneurs? Most of the banks would require at least 2 years of operations before they can start lending to refugees, which means that all these people can only rely on their savings that they brought from back from home, on their friends and family. Oftentimes, these are not startups, these are not ventures. These are places like small hair salons or small atelier or small kindergarten. And so these are the types of companies, of micro enterprises, that cannot apply for venture funding. They cannot go to the bank because they don't have sufficient years of experience in the country, years of operations in the country. And so I think the conversation today is super, super important, because we will focus on the opportunities that do exist for migrant entrepreneurs. We'll discuss some of the pilot programs that were run on how to improve access to finance for these particular individuals. We will get some numbers and some lessons learned already, and what we can incorporate in our daily lives, some of these lessons learned. And so I think the shift that we are seeing in the recent years from humanitarian, from aid approach to economic empowerment is a very encouraging one. And so the discussion today, I think, will revolve about how we can continue supporting this trend and how we can support migrants and refugees so that they are seen as very vital economic actors in their host countries. And they are. So by means of very quick interruption, I will advertise the book that I recently really liked. It's the book called The Truth About Immigration by Zeki Fernandez. And the subtitle of this book is Why Successful Societies Welcome Newcomers. So literally half of the book is dedicated to economic benefits that host countries gain when the number of refugees and the number of migrants increase, because these economic benefits are reflected in the number of micro and small companies growing, in the number of jobs created. And surprisingly, if you read this book, you will see innovation and investment in general will increase if there are more refugees and migrants operating in the country. So I highly recommend this book. It's a very interesting, it's a very lively read. I will post the title in the chat later. But hopefully we will explore the issues of access to finance and how refugees can really get their footing and get their better livelihood in their host countries. The median time of exile for a migrant in the country is between 7 to 11 years, depending on the context. And so these are the people who are really, it's not a short-term solution that's needed. It's a longer-term perspective that we need to look at. So let me start with our speakers, and I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker. Welcome, Nida Krasnidi from the Council of Europe Development Bank, often known as CEB. So the Council of Europe Development Bank, it's the oldest European multilateral development institution with a very strong focus on social finance and on social issues. And Nida, fun fact that I found out is that IFC and CEB were established in the same year, in 1956. So we belong to sister organizations established in the same year. So Nida will talk about the program, which is called PAFME. It's Partnerships and Financing for Migrant Inclusion Program. It's funded by the EU Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, AMIF. And the aim of the program, I think, is to integrate the third country nationals in the EU economy through partnerships, through innovative financing methods. So Nida, over to you. You have 15 minutes, so take your time, don't rush.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to everyone for your participation. It's a pleasure to be here and to share with you our work that we have done specifically with the PAFME project. So as I said, as you rightly said, today I will focus on one specific program of the CEB, which is funded by the EU's Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, by the AMIF. But you know, for the CEB, this is not something new or something that we haven't done before or that we don't also normally do with our own funds. The bank has a very strong social mandate, and we are always striving to serve the most vulnerable populations. But given the context of the webinar, I will focus on PathMe today, which we have set up with DG Home together, starting 2022 officially, but many discussions having taken place before, with the idea of trying to test the use of new forms of financing and different partnerships for migrant integration. As some of you might know, under regular circumstances, what we call, AMIF usually does only traditional grants, or to that point, that was, the general modus operandi. Now we have, with PathMe, and then also with EIB colleagues from FICOMPAS who are doing parallel work, and we are doing jointly and in parallel this work. We have tried to see if the combination of different or bundling of different types of financial instruments, of grants with loans and or guarantees would be useful and would work in integration projects. Specifically for the AMIF, seeing that before the focus was simply on grants. Also, a very important part of PathMe itself is the extraction and dissemination of best practices. So because it is a pilot, quite small, relatively small, the idea is also to try as much as we can to learn and extract some lessons and some emerging good practice from the project. And that is where today's presentation comes in. Where today I will present a little bit. I will start with just a brief overview of the project, and then I will share some of the results of a midterm review that we have done as part of PathMe, trying to extract these lessons. So as I said, the project started officially in 2022. We had launched a competitive process at the time, seeking for project proposals for projects that would be implemented by diverse partnerships in the local level, especially with multi-stakeholder approach. After the review process and everything, we ended up with 4 projects that are a bit spread out in across the EU, which focus on promoting employment opportunities, but also entrepreneurship and education, or vocational education and training. The first project that you see on the screen is one in Italy. So the Empower project, empowering migrants in professional welfare and economics. And it's actually a very interesting project that is led by a non-governmental institution, Associazione Microlab, and implemented together with Permicro, microfinance institution, and a number of other NGOs. And to be very frank with you, we were very worried that this was not going to work because of the large number of partners. It is going to be difficult to coordinate. But we have been able to see that for as long as each partner is covering their own niche, there can be very good synergies, and the project can move very smoothly. The objective of Empower is to improve the inclusion of migrants in Italy by increasing their employability, including self-employment, which is always an overarching theme, and raising awareness of the financial inclusion of non-EU citizens in Piedmont region in Italy, so in the Torino area. Some of the activities include one-to-one mentoring and tutoring for third country nationals, group training, financial literacy trainings, and as well financial support, both in terms of sort of a small non-repayable fund where beneficiaries can apply if they need to obtain some additional certification, or if they need to pay for converting their diplomas that they have earned back home. but also financial support which does not come from PAFMI per se, but is coming from, in the form of microcredit, from an InvestEU loan that the CEB has provided to Permicro. So how that works in practice is that with the grant component provided by PAFMI, Permicro would provide mentoring and tutoring to a third country national, to a migrant who wants to start up a business, support them preparing the business plan, obtaining, whatever certificate licenses is necessary, and so forth, and then deliver that, hand in hand with a microcredit that they would be able to provide at more favorable rates, and with better conditions, thanks to the InvestEU guarantee and to the CEB funding. In the Netherlands, we have what might seem as a similar project, which is led by a microfinance institution, by Credits, who is our borrower and our partner for quite some years now, and is implemented together with the Dutch Council of Refugees and the Dutch Chamber of Commerce. The objective is to support entrepreneurship in the Netherlands, and especially by improving migrants' business skills and networking, and to facilitate their inclusion in the Dutch society through entrepreneurship, basically. Another, focus is also to shift the focus of the government in the country from paid employment to entrepreneurship programs. And this is very interesting because as we see just to say that the project is this Entrepreneurship Academy training program, which Credits is providing for migrants all over the Netherlands, and they are doing this in very close cooperation with the Dutch municipalities. Apart from the group training, they also provide additional online tools and access to finance or to microcredit for those migrants who have completed the academy and are at a stage with a finalized business plan that want to open their own business. Here also we have this combination of funds from CEB loan to the grant which is provided for the soft component. Our next project is in the Brussels region in Belgium, integration of migrants in Brussels through entrepreneurship and self-employment. It is a partnership that is led by MicroStart, which is a microfinance institution, and it's implemented in cooperation with the Brussels Business Support Agency. The objective is to support the inclusion of migrants through entrepreneurship and self-employment, and particularly to raise awareness and strengthen local actors' capacity to support financial inclusion and entrepreneurship of migrants in Belgium. The project provides several activities such as information sessions, networking events for migrants and different organizations, coaching and training and business advice, which is provided again one-to-one hand in hand with the financial support in the form of microcredit that MicroStart provides by its own funds, either supported by the InvestEU through the EIB, EIF, and so forth. I have not mentioned the fourth project, which is implemented by the city of Vantaa in Finland, which is a very, very interesting project, but it does not involve a microfinance and does not have a focus on self-employment. It's more on schools and family integration. So I thought I will not share this to save some time. So as you could see from the three projects that I mentioned, the idea, we try to mimic this moving from the traditional grants to blending, combining, bundling, and leveraging different financial instruments. At the PAFMI level, we have the AMIF grant that is managed by the CEB and sub-granted to the project. And then we also have these financial instruments that are not coming from the AMIF grant, but are coming from other sources, both at the level of the grantees, so let's say of credits or Permicro or MicroStart, but then also at the level of the final beneficiary when the grant support is provided in combination with the financial support. This is, I think color is always easy to show, at least for some people, for me, for sure. And this is just to give you an idea of the variety of the partnerships that we have under PAFMI. So the partners are from public authorities, we have financial institutions, we have NGOs, foundations, international organizations, universities, think tanks, and also, European Commission and the Council of Eurobank. So it's really multi-stakeholder, and we think that this is, and I will just, talk about this in a few seconds. It's what has been one of the main success of PAFMI and what has helped in supporting the project moving forward. Some brief numbers from my side, which are dating back to the midterm report, to the midterm review. As I said, this is a presentation of the midterm review. So just to be formalistic on that sense, and to, just as a disclaimer, this data is covering from, let's say, early spring when the project started, by end of March, something like that, of last year. So definitely less than a year. We have reached 1,000 migrants, and 150 almost have received specific advice on entrepreneurship opportunities. 55 of our beneficiaries have improved or worked on their business plan until the end of December, and 38 of them had obtained a microloan from one of the institutions and have started a business. I have to say that I have visited some of them, and it's a great pleasure to see, because we are all stuck in our offices and sometimes, doing all of this backlog of work and bureaucracy. But it's a real pleasure to see, that they are doing well, that the work is really, really paid off in the field. So for me, it's always very rewarding. And as I said, PAFMI's success so far, so by the midterm review, was mainly due to this flexible and multidisciplinary approach that we have had. Multidisciplinary in the sense that we have the official partnerships, which cover a wide range of stakeholders, but also flexible in terms of our cooperation with the 4 projects. We have tried to have an open line of communication and be acceptive and receptive of change and adapting to the situation as you know, from the time when the project started, moving forward, many things changed in Europe, and it was important to keep that open mind and that open discussion. It's because also we have fostered the cooperation between financial and non-financial actors, which is not usually the case in projects or in the field, and that we have this complementarity of the PAFMI grants and the CEB loans. Some of the emerging lessons and best practices at midterm is that all the projects continue to remain highly relevant to the needs in the field. However, it has been very difficult to translate needs into demand, and it takes a lot of effort, both in terms of time and funds, so that we achieve the targeted number of beneficiaries and deliver the activities. As I said before, flexibility is key, and it's very important to adapt to evolving needs, especially in a current context in Europe and in the world, unfortunately. And in terms of flexibility, we should try to also maintain flexibility in terms of the implementation timelines and how objectives should be set, and how impact should be measured and seen. In a more practical sense, provision of the business development services that most of our microfinance institutions provide through PAVME should be done. We have seen that it works if it's done in different languages, but also in the host country language, in order to help migrants to improve this language levels that they need to have in order to continue with their integration path. And then also, because of the specificities of each of these groups, it's very important that flexibility is also maintained in terms of the format and the schedule of the activities, because usually we are talking about people who work long hours or work in shifts and don't really have the flexibility to easily attend different types of activities. The three main sort of lessons that we have is that advocacy at a more bigger stage, advocacy components should always be included in all projects, because this is really needed in order to facilitate working with public institutions. Whether we want it or not, the public institutions play a key role in the integration and financial inclusion of third country nationals. And it's not always very easy to work with them, or to break these barriers, or, the previously set mindset in terms of working with third country nationals. So an advocacy component in each project really is key to making that breakthrough. Partnerships, I think I already mentioned this several times. And yeah, in addition to, this multi-stakeholder approach, really focusing on building bridges with migrant-led NGOs to co-create activities and to implement them together. And we have seen that really the role of microfinance institutions is central, both to provide, tailored business development services, but also to provide advice on financial plans, and also to provide, the required microcredit to actually start a business. From our consultants report, there are two recommendations which are more to the European Commission and to the decision makers, and that is, on the one hand, there should be an action that would, provide funding to member states to provide business development service grants that focus on the financial inclusion of migrants and refugees. On the other hand, also designing and funding some actions where the EU member states would benefit from capacity building or awareness raising on the need of having really an enabling environment that includes many small pieces to a puzzle to improve the financial inclusion of this particular group. And in the very end, I would like to share a story from one of our beneficiaries. We have recently, we will share the presentation so you can see, and I can send a link in the chat, of one of our beneficiaries in the Netherlands. This is Salih, and he was a political refugee in the Netherlands and lived there for about 11 months without his wife or daughters, and he eventually learned about the credits entrepreneurial training for migrants through one of his friends. Having had, background in having his business back home as a carpenter, he wanted to enroll in the program and see if it would be possible for him to also start such a business in the Netherlands. He started the program in January, actually, in January of this year, has already completed it successfully, and with the help of a business coach from Credits, has prepared his business plan and applied for a microloan, which he will use to purchase a minivan and tools to start his business. Before submitting this loan application, he became somehow very famous in a local newspaper, and he started receiving a lot of requests also for small business for small works that didn't really require a lot of tools, and he was doing that and very happy about that. And for the moment, he's awaiting approval from the municipality where he lives in Maastricht to officially launch his business. And it's very important because this will also allow him to maintain some of his welfare benefits, which especially for starting entrepreneurs are very important. And finally, his family has recently joined him as well, and then now they all live together in the Netherlands. And yeah, in my view, this is the best way to conclude the presentation. And I'm aware I'm a bit over time, so I will stop it with that. And if you have any questions, please let us know. I will send the link to the story if you want to read more about his adventure and life in the chat. And yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Nida, and actually, indeed, thank you with completing your presentation with the human touch and with the story. It gives me chills to see how the person is able to establish himself in a different country after going through the hard experience with moving and everything. So I don't see any hands raised and I don't see any questions in the chat for now. So let me start with some of the clarifying questions. So the program is active currently in 4 countries. Are there any plans? I understand it's a pilot program, and so are there any plans to expand to other countries? Is it coming? And sorry to put you on the spot with this question.
Well, I mean, it was a pilot, so initially with an initial duration of 3 years, but which we have now managed to extend to 3.5. So there's still a bit of time left, almost a year until the end of the project. And seeing the nature of these activities, we really need some more time to see really the impacts. So that's why for the moment, we don't have any immediate, follow-up that is coming from AMIF or simply focused on third country nationals. But what we do have is another similar initiative that we will be launching very soon, which will be a blending for microfinance institutions coming through the European Social Fund, where we will provide, or where actually microfinance institutions can provide business development services to all types of vulnerable groups, including migrants and third country nationals, migrants and refugees. So yeah, we are trying to do things in parallel, and we believe that with this European Social Fund grant support, we will be able to achieve a bit of a wider group, because yeah, with AMIF, we know there are a bit of some specificities related to the eligibility of who can actually benefit from the funds, which makes it a bit more difficult to implement.
Yeah, I really like one of the phrases that you used in the presentation, translating migrant needs into effective demand. I think it's a difficult phrase for me to understand a little bit at first, but I basically understand it's getting to the group of migrants that need support within actors who can help them get where they need, both on the financial and non-financial side. So what are the specific techniques or specific strategies that were successful in getting these actors together? And how do you engage migrants?
Yeah, that is actually very key point of all of the projects, because it's something that we didn't really expect. I think also the MFIs themselves didn't expect in the beginning, because we know there is a need, there is a gap, but and people express that there is this need, but because of the intricacies related to migrants and refugees, they have specific integration programs to follow, family situations, working in shifts, or lack of childcare. All of that is really difficult to make them to commit to attend a training or something similar. So what has proven to work so far is really working with migrant-led organizations to either, or with community ambassadors, to either gain the trust of the people and bring them into the project, or use them as a door, to go there and provide the trainings, or sometimes they even do a sort of a trainer of trainers, working with these community ambassadors, training them so that they can then relay the information to their own to the people in their own communities. And so far, it's one of the things that has really worked in terms of closing this gap between the needs and the demand for the services.
Okay, great. Or we have a question from Eva Bankowska. So from your experience of working with financial providers, what's the key to understand the risks related to individual clients, individual refugees, migrants, especially in the context of mobility?
So there are several, and financial risk is always there, and it's what we have tried to work with. There are some, from what we have heard from the MFIs, they try to with PAFMI, with the non-repayable support, they really try to overcome these other barriers which are not really on the side of the financial risk that might be there, which is also first, how to reach these groups and how to serve them. Second, how to break the barriers also for them to understand better what the requirements would be to open a business in a country, or how to establish it, and the steps to be taken. And then also from the society in general, because also the people or the staff of the microfinance institutions that might be working with these groups sometimes may have biases, which is difficult to address. So having this approach, a more general approach from all the sides, is what we have heard is being done at the level of the MFI.
One quick follow-up question before we move on. You also mentioned that the role of MFIs is critical, and the role that MFIs play, because as I mentioned in the beginning, the traditional banking may not be there, the savings may not be there. So the role that MFI plays is very critical. But also MFIs, they need to adjust their approach, and they need to tailor their services specifically for refugees and migrants. So what are the unique challenges that you see from the perspective of MFIs, and how they deal with them and how they adjust their solutions?
Yeah, so it's something that we have discussed also, I think, extensively in a conference organized by Fee Compass in the beginning of summer. And one of the main things to address all of these challenges that we have been mentioning is to have dedicated funds to address or to reach third country nationals or migrants. All of these challenges require additional time and money and funds to be addressed. So that is one thing, that if we have specific funds earmarked for this specific group, it really makes and puts the microfinance institutions in a position where they really need to go that extra mile to reach the final, the desired targeted audience. On the other hand, in our projects, what has been done is really that all the MFIs, they have tailored their services to provide like a culturally sensitive services, both in terms of the soft services, the business development services, maintaining time flexibility, providing tools, doing simple language, simplified level of language, or providing it in different languages and so on. And then also on the side of the funding that they provide, providing financial products that would be acceptable, or that these types of groups can use. For example, in some cultures, it's not possible to obtain a loan, so providing with paying interest. So we have some of the MFIs that are trying to test some Islamic loans or honor loans to circumvent in one way this main challenge. So these have been some of the things that have been done in our projects.
All right, Nida, thank you very much. I wish you good luck with the rest of the implementation of the pilot program. I hope it proves successful and impactful, and we will hear more success stories, let's say, at the next conference that you can share. And again, if there are any new developments with this program, please keep us all posted. We'll be happy again to spread the word, especially if new instruments appear and so on. So thank you very much. Please hang out with us because we will have more Q&A time at the end. And so we will ask you more questions. And now let's move to Anna Zurek. Anna, I'm so sorry for butchering your name, probably. Zurek, is the correct? Zurek?
Depending in which country. Zurek in Polish, yes, and Zurek in English, I guess.
Okay. Apologies for mispronouncing your name. So I'm very happy to introduce Anna. Anna is from FI Compass or FI Compass. And Anna will share findings from another study conducted by AMIF. And the study was focusing on strategies and policies to support migrant entrepreneurs in accessing essential resources. So Anna, without further ado, I will pass to you. Please share the presentation. I see a lot of people from non-EU countries, it looks like. So if you could also comment in a little bit, what's FI Compass? Again, how do you pronounce it correctly? FI or FI Compass? What does it do? What's the role of FI Compass in European investment?
Yes, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Zurek. I'm a financial instrument advisor at the European Investment Bank. I'm working on the FI Compass advisory mandate, but also on some InvestEU advisory mandates as well in our division. And a big thank you as well to the Microfinance Center colleagues to give me the opportunity to provide you a summary of our FI Compass study that we conducted actually in 2023. Exploring the potential on financial instruments to support migrant integration, especially third country nationals integration in the EU, and to discuss those findings with you. So to the question that Olga just mentioned, what is actually FI Compass? So it is an advisory platform that is provided by the European Commission in partnership with the European Investment Bank to promote the use of financial instruments. With financial instruments, we mean loans, guarantees, equity instruments, quasi-equity instruments. And those instruments can be co-financed by different shared management funds, we call them. So this could be ESF Plus, this is the European Regional Development Fund, so the ERDF, but it also can be AMIF, this Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund. And those these are forms of support, basically the financial instruments, just like grants as well, to support those different EU policy objectives. Our platform has been started in 2014-15 to support the main cohesion funds and also the agriculture fund. But now, as in the programming period 2021-27, also AMIF and also two other home funds, the BMVI and ISF, are also part of the so-called Common Provisions Regulation. So they are also part of this family of shared management funds. It is technically possible to implement financial instruments also using those funds. So this is just a little bit of a background. And our platform is a capacity building and awareness raising, basically, vehicle to support this idea, and also to not only to convince the authorities that are managing those funds to deploy financial instruments, but also to consider how to best combine financial instruments and grants, because this is a big opportunity that has been even widened in the Common Provisions Regulation for this programming period. And we provide upstream support. So this is member state specific activities. We elaborate a range of publications, just as those that you see here on the slide in the bottom, different fact sheets, studies, case studies. We also organize events, conferences, bigger flagship, bigger conferences, but also of online webinars, such as comparable to this one, or much smaller meetings with the different stakeholders involved in financial instruments. Our advisory offer is mainly targeting managing authorities, so those authorities that are actually managing the shared management funds and the programming, but also all other stakeholders. And I wanted to mention here that microfinance institutions and providers are obviously a very important stakeholder group for us, because they are the bodies implementing the financial instruments. And for us, each, you can see those 5 icons on the screen with different colors. So we, for each of the big shared management funds, we have a so-called work stream. And one of our work streams, this violet one, is the AMIF work stream, where we dedicate basically, this is on the topic of the migration, integration of migrants. This work stream has been launched in 2025 as a union action from DG Home, just similarly as what Nida just explained about the PAFMI project. And we explore here with this work stream the potential to deploy financial instruments, also potentially in combination with grants in the area of integration of migrants, and especially among them third country nationals. So just to clarify the terminology, what we understand under third country nationals, so the TCNs, these are the migrants that arrive to the EU from other countries outside of the EU. This subgroup can include includes as well refugees, but it is worth noting that a substantial group of third country nationals arriving in the EU are not refugees. They come to the EU for other reasons, for studying, for work, family reunification, etc. And so this work stream, just to once again mention that we developed in collaboration with DG Home. But we do also, in the middle, you see on the screen the berry colored one, the ESF, where we also closely work with DG Employment. So yes, on the study, today I'm presenting the study results. This was a comprehensive work that we have undertaken starting in end of 2022, launching really the activities throughout the whole year of 2023, and then writing up all the results and publishing the study in June of this year. The study's objective was to investigate the potential of using financial instruments for migrant integration with the focus on 3 areas. Microfinance is the first one, but also in the area of housing and social impact investing. And the first part of the study provides a market assessment, which includes an analysis of the demand and the supply side in financing, as well as an estimate of the financing gap for each sector. And to maybe just summarize what I will speak later on, you can imagine that the financing gap that the study has provided is quite substantial in all areas, but also especially in microfinance. And the study looks at the topic on EU level. However, part 1 is accompanied by 6 country reports, which provide the market assessment in the 3 mentioned areas for 6 countries. So France, Germany, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, and Romania. You see them on the slide here. And the second part of the study provides for each of these areas recommendations for, we call it design options for financial instruments. And these recommendations are done on EU level because it would be very hard to look into each of the member states. However, there can be seen some tendencies, and we tried to put them together basically on EU level. The study is generally fund agnostic, as multiple funding sources can be potentially used for many of those proposed solutions. And we didn't want to say that this is only possible, for instance, with AMIF resources or with ESS with plus resources. So this is also an important aspect. And just as a side note, AMIF supports so-called early integration measures for third country nationals. So when the third country national arrives in the new place, in the new homeland, so the first, yes, some countries interpreted this and early integration measures very restrictive. So for instance, they see it only as the first year, basically 12 months of a third country national being in the country, whereas other countries see it a little bit more subject to interpretation and in the individual assessment, let's say. But then at some point, there is a demarcation between where AMIF support finishes and ESF plus support, for instance, starts. So these are the funds that are classically in charge of the medium and long-term integration of third country nationals together with all other vulnerable groups. I just wanted also to mention when we speak about the study that we are very thankful that we were supported on the microfinance part of the study by the Microfinance Center organizing this very webinar today. So we had the big pleasure to benefit from MFC's and its members' broad sector knowledge and network. So thank you very much, and all the involved have done a really phenomenal job, and also all the microfinance providers that participated in the different meetings that were part of the study. And for the study, we used a mix of methods, so desk research, but also focus groups, interviews. We did some in-person workshops with different stakeholder groups. So that was really a very insightful exchanges with this group. The study once again was published. It's available on our website, and I will also post in later on in the chat the link to the study. So yes, let's have a look at the at microfinance. Here, just when we started our work on this work stream, we looked at which areas perhaps have the where maybe financial instruments have already been deployed, where third country nationals have been one of the target groups of the support. And indeed, it turned out that there are obviously that naturally microfinance has already quite a track record of financial instruments being deployed that don't only tackle third country nationals, but among other groups as well. So that was a strong indicator that here this is a very important area to look at in our study. And obviously as well, the area is widely supported by the European Commission, which supports as well the notion that this area needs to be further developed in the EU. And also, obviously, there are financial instruments that are supported with ESF Plus, where migrants and third country nationals can also benefit. So that was a really important notion. On the other hand, it is worth noting that using financial instruments to finance projects addressing the integration needs of third country nationals makes sense only if some parameters are fulfilled. One is that obviously the resources need to be paid back. So there are many measures for third country nationals that are needed, but still grants will be probably the best way to address them. In the case of microfinance, as the loan is being paid back, this is obviously a natural area where financial instruments make sense. And the other the other notion is that there needs to be a sufficient number of projects to allow a financial instrument to be considered. And here it seems that there is a big demand for this kind of support, microfinance support. So this also is an important factor to let us believe that this was a really important area to explore in our study. Taking all this into consideration, microfinance for entrepreneurial third country nationals is, in our view, as a key finding of the study, the most suited area to be supported through financial instruments, even in a bigger scale than currently it is. And yes, so let's have a look at the demand side, because obviously in the study, in the market analysis part, we look at the demand side and financing and the supply side of financing. So in terms of the demand side of financing, maybe just among other things, we looked how entrepreneurial migrants or third country nationals are in fact. Are they less or more entrepreneurial than the normal population of a country? And it is because it is obviously not the aim here to push anybody forcefully into entrepreneurship, and maybe what goes along these lines into indebtedness, no? But yes, according to here Eurostat data, the entrepreneurship of third country nationals, it is only slightly lower on average than the entrepreneurship rate of the national population, and is slightly higher than of the EU internal migrants. So for instance, a French person coming to, let's say, Luxembourg to work. And generally, when we see EU-wide 6%, you see it with this dot in the first here column. It's quite a significant number, so it translates a lot of people who actually consider starting their own business. So that's already a strong indicator. But obviously there are many barriers. No, so I just to name a few. These are legal constraints, cultural differences. Obviously there are institutional differences between the home and the host countries. Language barrier, very often, not always, but very often this needs to be addressed very often. For the first, in the very beginning, limited access to relevant information on available opportunities. So this is what we really see as well. Very often that the migrants are not even aware of what kind of support or that they could actually start their own business, then what kind of financial and non-financial support they could get. And yes, native population biases. So basically, this notion that there is this belief that in the capacity of refugees, that maybe it's lower than of the regular population. So there are many barriers that third country nationals on their entrepreneurial path may face, that are specific to their particular situation. And yes, here just we looked in the study as well as at the typical entrepreneurship journey of third country nationals when they just arrive in the EU. As this group is obviously especially relevant for AMIF, so those newly coming third country nationals. So this graph just illustrates that entrepreneurial third country nationals need both. So you see the financial support and the non-financial support, and at the different stages of their integration process and on their path towards entrepreneurship. So these are two basically really important aspects that need to go hand in hand together. And yes, and there are obviously in terms of those entrepreneurship support needs, our study as well provides a little bit of an overview what type of those needs are there at the different stages of the preparation of their business, and many are very similar to the needs of the regular population. No, however, especially the third country nationals that are newly arriving in a country, they have some additional non-financial support needs that need to be addressed to give them a realistic chance to succeed with their entrepreneurial idea. On the other side, on the supply side, so this all resonates quite well with how actually microfinance works in the EU, especially supporting vulnerable groups such as third country nationals. So you see in the center we have the microfinance providers, so they support their clients with microloans, but not only, because they also very often provide this business development services. Here on the graph on the right side in the small cloud, you see that there are different ways actually that the BDS can be provided. So it can be provided directly by the microfinance institution or provider, but also through other ways, by chambers of commerce, employment offices, by NGOs, migrant associations, etc. Well, where does this financial means come from to actually provide this support? So obviously microfinance institutions have their own resources, and they very often use, especially for this business development services part, their own resources in terms of the financial support through microloans. Very often they use, for instance, the InvestEU guarantee. This is on the left, so to help those providers to reduce the risk of lending to riskier groups such as migrants, third country nationals. And in addition, on top, many microfinance institutions borrow money from financial institutions such as the CEB, as we heard from Nida, the EIB, and so forth. And also they use some other funding sources. This is also obviously possible. So this is more or less how obviously the structure works, and our analysis of the supply side in microfinance concluded that generally microfinance institutions seem interested to enhance their lending to this particular vulnerable group, but they need a little bit more credit risk coverage support. No, so obviously here InvestEU is a very suitable tool to help this with this, and it is very popular. But the resources of the InvestEU guarantee are quite limited actually for this programming period, have been quite already used. In addition, there's also quite an interest in additional liquidity support by microfinance institutions. Then maybe we can also mention that there is an issue with high interest rates, obviously currently, which are affecting microfinance institutions and obviously are passed in a way to their clients, making the financing expensive. And in terms of business development services, as I mentioned, they are very often these services are provided at own resources, and these are scarce. So if we really need to enhance this non-financial support of our country nationals, external support is really needed. So this is a little bit about the supply side summary of our findings. Yes, and just to maybe a little bit of also just the terminology, what we actually mean by business development services. No, so we tried to. There are different interpretations, but generally we try to put them into three notions. So it's coaching, mentoring, and training, and it's very often like a funnel. So it starts with a lot of persons who participate in training, so one-to-many trainings on some general ideas, and obviously not everybody of this group will then want to follow on with their idea to start their own business. A smaller group then is then going through some training and some more tailored form of support. And then there is mentoring, which is a one-to-one learning relationship, on specific topics and really tailored to the needs of an individual. While as one-to-many trainings may not cost so much, but you can imagine that this kind of more individualized support is really costly. And we tried, I think in our study, we have some numbers like how much actually such a business development service offer costs per person. It obviously varies as well from country to country, but it is a substantial number and going into thousands of euros very often. So it is when you consider that the microfinance itself is up to 50,000 euro. This BDS support that is really needed to help migrants, succeed in their area is really a substantial part, and it's really necessary, very basically, for the financing as well to work. So that's really important to take into consideration. So yes, here just an example, also just to give a face to what I just described. Nida described obviously here the examples of the PAFMI project, but there were a couple of other union actions as well, supporting entrepreneurship, migrant or third country national entrepreneurship. So this is one example that has been financed through the union action project called Athena. And there were several international, so it was a European project. There were several project partners from different countries participating, but one of them was Chamber of Commerce in Seville, in Spain. And they provided this kind of business development services to third country nationals, such as here Viviana, who came from Venezuela to Spain. She obviously, so there was not a language barrier, but still all the legal framework of the country was new to her. She was a lawyer by herself, but couldn't practice obviously law in her new country without having to finish probably or do some exams. So she decided to actually launch a business, a cleaning business for tourist flats and homes. At the beginning, she didn't know actually that there would be even a possibility to somehow get help through the Chamber of Commerce, and she didn't even know that there is something like microfinance. But through this tailored advisory or tailored business development services that the Chamber of Commerce provided to her, she worked matured her business idea, and the project responsible, who was her counterpart, has brought her as well in contact with Microbank, which is the microfinance provider obviously in Spain. She decided, because she needed some investment loan, some small investment loan, obviously here, to 25,000 euro to buy some machines, to a tricycle as well, to transport the bed line and to the different flats. So this combination of this non-financial support, which was financed by this union action of AMIF, and financial support through by Microbank was here really essential for her to successfully launch and developed her own company, which currently employs a number of employees, very many of them as well third country nationals themselves. So this is a really interesting example, and we had the pleasure as well to have Viviana at our AMIF conference in June this year, as well, to hear from her firsthand how big this support was and how essential it was actually for her to succeed. Once again, this was just one example, but during the elaboration of our study, we found out that there was actually a number of those already support schemes for business development services. So it started already in the previous programming period with the Easy BDS pilot for refugees and migrants. Some of the microfinance institutions today present at the event might also have participated in this pilot. It was a first time, let's say, pilot. It was a little bit of a different scheme. I think that there was a 400 euro lump sum that each of so that were provided to the microfinance institution per migrant. And then there were, in this programming period, actually several union action projects that were that supported migrant entrepreneurship. So PAFMI, obviously, that Nida explained, is the biggest, I think, here, but also Athena. There was also Plutos, Moms at Work. So this also just shows that also in this very in this area of very strict eligibilities under AMIF, because it only tackles this early integration and third country nationals, there seems to be a big gap that it really shows that this kind of projects were proposed and received funding. And it also shows that the Commission sees business development services clearly as a part for third country nationals here, clearly a part that can be financed by AMIF. I also wanted to mention that some countries might see it a little bit different, because very often the delineation between ESF Plus and AMIF is on national level decided a little bit more strictly. So for instance, in some countries it might be that whatever is considered social integration in this early integration phase, this is to be covered by AMIF. But whatever is already considered financial integration would fall under ESF. So that's also to be taken into consideration when discussing the decentralized financial instruments supporting here third country nationals. Yes, just quick, maybe key takeaways of our study in terms of microfinance. So yes, I will not. I decided not to put the number. It's huge. You can imagine the financing gap EU-wide in terms of in the area of microfinance. Actually, both not only for the financial part, but also the non-financial part. So the BDS. What we see in terms of the solutions, a quick win would be to somehow strengthen InvestEU, this instrument, because at some point it will be probably there will be no resources left. So that would be good to think about that, and then to support it obviously with grant schemes such as to basically to support the development of the BDS offer by microfinance providers. So we very welcome that there will be at least something provided by the CEB, a blending grant. We also highlighted in the study that there is a big potential to add ESF plus resources through the member state compartment to InvestEU. So this is coming back to this idea of strengthening the InvestEU product. And also, yes, there is also the possibility to complement InvestEU with other decentralized financial instruments. No, whereas it needs to be said that they also obviously need to be in a different area than the InvestEU, not to provide the same support, the very same support twice. And obviously to seek synergies between the different funds, because one of the challenges here in this area is that we have different funding sources. So we have on central level InvestEU, but we have the ESF on the shared management, ERDF, AMIF, and so to seek synergies so that the managing authorities speak to each other, so that the support schemes that they develop are really complementary to each other. And that there is no lag, because very often when a demarcation line is set between two funds, there is this risk that actually on the border, on this gray area between two funds, between the two eligibilities, none of the funds feels responsible. So this is a real really important aspect. And the other aspect is as well to look, this is not on the slide, but just really to look already at the next programming period, because it's already 2024. Obviously, the discussions how the next programming period and the funding will be shaped will very soon launch. And whatever we also in terms of the study have written, we hope that as well it is not only benefiting this current programming period, but also will help shape the considerations for the next programming period. Obviously underlining that there is a big financing gap, and there is really an important role of public finance here to play. Yes. So here, once again, just to underline the InvestEU, the current programs. Now there are two: the guarantee product, but also not to forget the equity product that could also not maybe in here, especially for the microfinance part, but also for social enterprises, could also really tackle the group of third country nationals. And also as a quick win for this programming period, our study proposes, apart from the things that we mentioned here, to top up InvestEU, that a top up of InvestEU is also possible with this union action resources of AMIF, and then it would be funneled really just to that particular target group of third country nationals. Several DGs have done that as well with some other centrally managed funds. So it would not be the first time. Yes, so that's one of the also important study recommendations. And in terms of the business development services, we also wanted to, because there are two options, this kind of support schemes could be implemented on EU level, such as for instance, the PAFMI, obviously, grant was available to projects across the EU, but also obviously that it could be considered that one member state, so one managing authority, authority decides to implement a grant scheme only for their country with their national, let's say, ESF plus resources to support BDS. So our study presents basically the pluses, the pros and cons of both options. The centrally managed scheme obviously has some advantages, such as that it would be very it would be available to all countries, so that there will be obviously a big plus. It would be also probably faster implemented and allowing more harmonization and simplification, standardization. Whereas obviously on MS level, so on member state level, there are also some clear advantages. So it could be more tailored to the specificities of a country, offered more obviously flexibility, and all sometimes the local language, the local peculiarities are also important. So it could be also just basically tailored better. Obviously, if it's a grant scheme, it could be probably quite promptly implemented. So yes, this is all to provide. We didn't give any specific recommendation here, but we wanted to provide this pros and cons so that the stakeholders can make an informed decision which option actually to choose, if any. And yes, and another recommendation of our studies to complement basically this InvestEU offer with some other products, and one of them could be a risk-sharing loan, so a funded instrument actually to help with the liquidity needs of microfinance institutions, because we heard as well during our exchanges with microfinance providers when we in the course of the study preparations that for some at least countries this is still an issue. Here could be it could because if it's an instrument that would tackle not only third country nationals but also other vulnerable groups, this could be obviously financed by ESF plus, for instance. That's more or less the key recommendations. And what I think our study is quite helpful with is to also to serve as a compendium of all of the relevant examples. So I just wanted to mention that that also in our study you find short examples of different instruments, how they work, and one of them is obviously we have featured them as under Fee Compass as well in an ESF workstream case study. This is the financial instrument supporting microfinance in Bulgaria in the 2014-2020 period. Just to basically allowing the microfinance provider to provide to their clientele microloans on very favorable conditions, which obviously is very helpful. I will not go now to the details, but this is just one example I've heard. Because before joining this session, I was by myself participating as listener in a session here in this event about the ESF, the Polish example as well with ESF plus. There is also a microfinance instrument with under ESF in Germany. So there are quite a number of interesting examples, but there is still quite a lot of room in our view as well for more finance through shared management funds. There are also, by the way, instruments, microfinance instruments, or small loans, basically instruments provided by ERDF. Obviously, they are not only limited to vulnerable groups, but can be accessed by all the groups, which obviously then might be that then the vulnerable groups are not or seen as particularly risky for this group. So that's why there is a really a big need for instruments as well, specifically developed for for those vulnerable groups. And just to finish up, so these are the links. I will also post them in a moment in the chat. So our website, which has all the information that we publish. We are a capacity building platform, so these are mostly publications and also the presentations from our events. We have a fact sheet, so a very good starter document, which is the first bullet here. Then we have the practical guide, which is a very practical document on financial instruments, just to give like a toolkit a little bit for the managing authorities and the different other stakeholder groups. And then our study, which has, once again, these 2 parts, and also the country reports. And we also published a case study about the business development services, this first initial pilot that our EIF colleagues have managed in the previous programming period. And also just to mention that looking at the topic a little bit more broadly, we have also ESF resources. So here, just a couple of them. We have some fact sheets. You see, so where obviously it's more broadly tackling the topic of ESF financial instruments, and then we have some case studies. So these are even describing some of the instruments I just mentioned briefly. Yes, we also.
Yeah. I understand, Anna, that the presentation will be available, and so all the links will be available. So of course, it's a whole wealth of information to capture in one presentation, but the participants will be able to go and study in more detail all the links, right?
Correct. And yes, yeah, videos, etc. These are all hyperlinked. So yeah, and that's it from me.
Super. All right, Anna, this is perfect. So can I run through the questions in the chat? So we have one person, Marie Olofsdottir. Again, sorry for butchering your names. So I understand that Marie is from Denmark, and she is the founder of a company, Finclusive, in Denmark, that targets working with migrants and supporting migrants for financial access to financial services. So her questions are, I didn't understand, is this something one can still apply to? So are there currently ongoing programs that Marie, as a founder of a MFI and social enterprise, can go and apply for funding?
I think that the BDS, because it's around it's revolving to apply for BDS grants. I think that the projects that I just mentioned, they have finished. I know that there was one already as well, a new one that also has been published. The place to look for those is I think on DG Home's page there is for the Union Action there is a work plan on the website. And they and the DG Home colleagues, this has usually a 3-year period. So at some point, I guess 2025, 26, I would say maybe there would be something new. And obviously, I mean, I don't know if this is in the radar of NIDA and in terms of this blending option, maybe that could be something to worth consider.
There is a question about, again, links and files with presentations. Please bear with us, they will be shared. Organizers will make sure that the presentations are shared with you. So don't worry about this. And again, you will have the recording online. So we have several refugees from Ukraine. And as I mentioned, the situation in Poland is quite specific with access to finance for Ukrainian refugees. The microfinance landscape in Poland seems to be really scarce. Lesa, answering your question at this moment, I can only recommend that you can actually approach the office of EBRD. They have business advisory services in Warsaw, and they can finance some of the advisory services for Ukrainian refugees.
Just to mention that we, in our study, we have also described, it's called Youth, I don't remember. There is an organization with 3 letters. I can briefly look into this study in a moment and maybe share as well in the link. But I know that there was also some kind of support provided by them in Poland. I think it's called Youth Business International. I don't know if this rings a bell but they do have a project specifically targeting, I think, Ukrainian refugees in Poland.
All right, the time ran out. The presentations were extremely interesting. A lot of information. Again, again, from the point of refugees, I understand the difficulties sometimes to find the way in of where to get access to business development services, to loans, to grants, to combined and blended instruments and so on. I also understand the situation differs country by country. And again, it depends on the microfinance landscape in the country specifically. So this is work in progress. But I think also what I heard from the presentations, from both presentations, partnerships, cooperation, collaborations are absolutely critical. This is a huge topic to tackle. It takes a village to get all together and find a solution. So I hope this was very useful for the participants. You found some new information. You found some new contexts. Please reach out to us. If we could be of use. Before we leave, I also want to ask you to fill in the feedback form for the session. Joanna will share the feedback. It's on your screens. So please fill in the feedback. It's only one question, but it will be super useful to frame the next sessions. And thank you once again for joining the Social Finance Vibe this year. I don't have the reaction somehow in this version of Zoom, but kudos to our speakers. Thank you so much for being very generous with your information. Anna in particular bombarded with us in a very good way with a lot of links, a lot of studies. I think it gives a lot of substance for the participants that they can use. And so I definitely hope that we will see you at our next sessions, and please continue staying with Social Finance Vibe. I wish you a very good day, very productive day. And once again, Anna and Nida, huge thank you to you.